This week on the Timelapse Show, what do Stanford, a board maker, and a $25,000 bet have in common? Find out next on this week's episode of the Timelapse Show. Hello everyone, welcome to week 2 of the Timelapse Show for the week of June 24th, 2018. Now in the previous episode, we talked a lot about why time-lapse photography, time-lapse video work is so cool, where we can watch the world sped up and we can see things that we just can't see with our regular naked eye. We can analyze patterns in weather. We can look at how people work and move together. A lot of just amazing, beautiful things can come from time-lapse video work. But where did this all come from? How did this all come to be? This week, there's not a great deal of news. There's not any breaking new products that are being released in relation to time-lapse video work and time-lapse producing. So we're going to cut right into our main segment of a quick history lesson, and hopefully an entertaining history lesson, as far as where time-lapse came from and how it's evolved since its humble beginnings. So we're going to go all the way back now, all the way back to 1870. And we're going to go back to what's probably the birthplace of a lot of innovations, which is a racetrack and a bunch of guys making bets. So here's how the story goes. Now keep in mind, historians kind of disagree with this whole story. Well, some of them agree, some of them disagree. Some of them say it's myth, some of them say it's actually happened. Who knows? But here's the story as it is portrayed now. How it reportedly went down was this. We need to introduce Leland Stanford, as in the former governor of California, Leland Stanford. He was a fairly well-to-do horse racer, Leland Stanford. Also Stanford as in that school that us Oregon Duck fans loathe. Go Ducks. But yeah, that's Stanford, the trees mascot guy. Now, at the time, fans of horse racing had a big bet going, a big debate, a big discussion amongst the elite horse racing fans. And it went something like this.
I'm willing to bet $25,000 that when these crazy fast horses are racing, all 4 hooves are off the ground simultaneously at some point. Like a giant flying horse.
You're on, pal. That's crazy. How do we tell? Our eyes can't see that fast.
I'll get my friend with the weirdly spelled name to come over. He may have some tricks up his sleeve to help us out. My name is Edward Muybridge. That is pronounced Ed Weird. And yes, I will take a break from my book-selling business to come over and help you settle your bet. Just before I kill my wife's lover.
True story.
But I have been playing with these camera inventions, and I think that I have an idea that will help you out. Yeah!
Yay! All right.
Shut up and let me do my work.
So now, this wasn't just a quickie little experiment. This isn't like something we could do today where we grab a camera, set the shutter speed to something ridiculous, go down and take a bunch of shots, and we're done. No, this is a long time ago. So over the course of 5 years, Muybridge figured out how exactly to put this all together. What he did was, keep in mind, this is back in the days when they're using metal and glass plates for photography. So things took a long time, hence the 5 years, like I said. Anyway, back to the experiment. What he wanted to do was, or what he tried to do is he rigged up a whole series of cameras all together in a line on a racetrack that they were using. Each of these cameras is hooked up to like a wire that went down along the bottom of the horse racing track. So the idea is that as the horse is running, its legs are triggering each one of these triggers, for lack of a better word, And those triggers are connected to each camera. Each camera is taking a picture. And so you get kind of this equivalent of today's rapid fire shooting where, the horse is moving and the cameras are documenting all along and then doing their process for capturing that footage. Then they could take all of these images and they could put them all together to really see every single step that this horse was taking. This took quite a few runs to get it right, but the historic pictures that have come back from this experiment are really cool to look and analyze. So, in the end, they did determine that at some point in time, as the horse was racing, all four hooves were off the ground, hence making it like a big flying horse for that split second. But all four legs did leave the ground.
Yes, I win!
I don't know if money was actually delivered in this bet, but the bet was figured out. But what we get from that is the world's first, essentially, time-lapse footage, where you're looking at something, you're looking at an event, and you're speeding it up over time, analyzing the movement of what's happening, rather than just a single still image. That's where this whole thing started out from, was a bet for supposedly $25,000 at a horse racing track about whether or not, just, again, guys out making crazy bets with each other, thinking about things, and, well, I wonder how this works. That's where this all started from.
Haha, mission accomplished. Off to go take more photos of lions and animals and naked people running around.
Now, despite all of Muybridge's eccentricities, he is considered really the father of time-lapse photography. He did go on to, he didn't just take pictures of horse racing. He evolved with this. He took pictures of people in different types of movements. He took pictures of animals, lions in particular, to see and analyze how they move. And so there's a lot of really great, fun historical shots of Muybridge's photography tests in a time-lapse style. So for the next 50 or more years, photographers and innovators kept messing around with this kind of cool format. One of the bigger known ones was a European filmmaker named Josh Méliès. He's known for his 1902 film Trip to the Moon. He was the first one to incorporate the use of time-lapse in an actual motion picture sequence. So suddenly more and more people are becoming used to seeing this style of work as it was now in a feature film. In the 1920s, German filmmaker Arnold Funk incorporated weather, landscape, man's struggles with nature, that kind of stuff in his time-lapse movie making. Another one, French filmmaker Jean Commandon, along with his four brothers, began using time-lapse photography to document microscopic images of microbes and flowers for biologists. Now, let's cut ahead in time. The 1950s, American John Oates took things a step further.
During the day, I work in a bank, and that is so boring. So I keep myself entertained at night by playing with my camera and watching flowers blossom. I even figured out how to hook up a timing device so my camera will keep taking photos when I'm gone during the day.
Now, let's talk for a second about John Oates. During the day, John Oates was a banker. He was a successful banker, so he had money coming in. But I think he got a little bored with his regular job and had a fun hobby. So eventually his love of time-lapse and the success that he found with time-lapse allowed him to leave his banking duties and more focus full-time on time-lapsing work. So one of the things that he did was he set up a big greenhouse, and he had all sorts of flowers and plants that he was shooting there. He figured out a way also to rig up a timer to his cameras so that they could shoot continuously even when he wasn't there. So he could go off during the day and the cameras would still shoot. And he's capturing all this amazing footage of flowers. A lot of this footage was actually used in Walt Disney's nature films. Now, over time, time-lapse continued to evolve, camera equipment continued to evolve, and people continued to find new and exciting ways to incorporate time-lapse style shots in a lot of the stuff that they were doing. Now, anyone like myself who grew up in the 80s may remember this little moment in cinematic history. All done using time-lapse techniques. So for instance, they built the big head, the head model with lots of nice colorful bloody looking layers out of wax. And then they put that head in front of a nice heat lamp right above it, head below it, and then using time-lapse, they just ever so often, as we will talk about in future episodes, that thing just slowly melted down. You can see a lot of the atmospherics that are coming through. Well, wind doesn't move that fast. They've got to somehow speed up time, so they're using time-lapse shots. You would be surprised how many times time-lapse shots are used for little effects that we don't even think about in feature films and in all of our entertainment today. Again, we're going to be talking about this more in detail on future episodes of the show, but as you're watching different media, whether it's historical old stuff, whether it's new stuff, always watch for where they're speeding up time using time-lapse techniques. It's fascinating to see. Before we end this week's little history lesson, I do want to have my time-lapse clip of the week. Now, one of the things, like I've said before, that's really cool to do is to take a look at what these experts are doing and get their ideas from them. And what better experts than some of the videographers and photographers from National Geographic. Found this clip earlier this week, especially fast forward to this point in time. As you can see in about the middle of the video, some of the stuff that they're doing with stars and with the mountains, absolutely beautiful. So as you watch this stuff, again, analyze what they're doing, and we're going to go through it in future episodes in a lot more detail. But really look and get ideas for shots, and then say to yourself, okay, how can I go recreate this shot on my own? How can I have the scenery that's around me really go and analyze this shot? So next week, we're going to go through and we're going to take a quick look at my process to see exactly what I do step by step from inception of a shot all the way through the final rendering on the computer so that you can see in broad strokes how this all comes together. And then in future episodes, we're going to break that apart in little minute piece by piece by piece so that you can see exactly how all this goes together and how you can improve your shots. Thanks for watching this week's episode of the Timelapse Show. Remember to subscribe to us. There's a little button right down here somewhere if you're watching on YouTube, so that way you can click subscribe. If you're listening on the audio podcast version, make sure you've subscribed to the show using your podcast player, whichever one you use. But subscribe to us, that way you don't miss any of the shows. We've got a lot of cool stuff coming up this summer, and a lot of different chances to go on location to film some amazing stuff. So subscribe, join us. Remember to contact us with your questions, with your comments, with anything that you want to contribute to the show. Look us up on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just search for The Timelapse Show. Look for our logo and click subscribe so you can keep up with all those different channels. You can also send me an email. Just address it to show@thetimelapseshow.com and it will come right to me. And if you don't want to type and you'd rather just talk to us and have your voice featured on an upcoming show, just record a voicemail using 541-321-0472, and we will be able to feature that on a future show, answer your question, and make sure you get all the information you need. So that's it for this week's episode. Go shoot some amazing things, and remember to take a look at this amazing world that we have around us, and then speed it up and enjoy. See you next week.